My name is Gene Shu. I'm an ABC. That's American-born Chinese.
Your grandfather or my father was a physics professor. So in Chinese culture, being a professor or a doctor or a lawyer is really kind of a status symbol. It kind of represents.
At the intersection between America and China, I'm concerned about the lack of cultural awareness on both sides.
Are you making choices based on your face and reputation? Or are you making choices to improve the quality of your life?
But I'm still optimistic about the future for my unborn son. Generational ABC podcasts are my conversations with my unborn son, one ABC to another, in my attempt to explain our world in context in order for him to make better sense of his world, which will be nothing like the world we live in today.
And it just transcends everything that Chinese people do and how they make decisions. Hey, little buddy. Good morning. This is your father again. Today I'm coming to you from my home office. And this is one of the last recordings that is going to be in this environment because your mom and I just purchased a new house. And by the time you are born, we will be living somewhere else. Currently, this is an apartment that we're renting. So the office is obviously a little bit crude. It's kind of like a temporary situation. Um, so, so yeah, I just wanted to also give you a record of um, where your parents, your mother and I currently live and work. So maybe later on I'll give you a tour of this apartment. But right now things are a mess because we're actually moving next week. So there's going to be a big change. But I think the thing that I was thinking about what could be related to uh, why we're moving and kind of what's going on in our lives right now is the concept of kind of like face and reputation. So so your grandfather or my father was a physics professor. So in Chinese culture, being a professor or a doctor or a lawyer is really kind of a status symbol. It kind of represents that you're well educated, perhaps even more sophisticated. And that's just the perception that many Chinese people, and now I'm not talking about Chinese people from China, I'm just talking about overseas Chinese. I mean, the generation of overseas Chinese, American born Chinese, all of your aunts and uncles, they grew up in an environment where education, traditional education, was highly valued, and and it creates kind of your status. So your uncles and aunts who are doctors and lawyers and all of that stuff, that was really important. It's part of who they are. And the reason that I talk about that now, and I think it's important now, because uh, throughout your life and throughout your career, there's going to be a lot of changes. Some changes are controllable, and some changes are not controllable. And everybody basically has to choose their own. They have to make their. Everybody has to make their own choices in life. And the question is, are you making choices based on your face and reputation, or are you making choices to improve the quality of your life, give you more freedom, financial freedom, and freedom to do the things that inspire you? So, one of the transitions in my career right now is I'm no longer working for someone else. Okay. So then the question becomes, if you're not working for somebody else, how do you explain to people what you're doing? And how do you sacrifice your face or your reputation or status uh, based on what you're currently doing? And given the current situation, obviously your level of financial success has a lot to do with your status. But when you're an entrepreneur starting out, you're not that financially successful, but you can say, I'm an entrepreneur, or you can say, I'm the founder of my own company, or you can say that you're the CEO or the president of the company that you work for. And that's just very, very important concept to understand, because traditional Chinese culture and even Chinese culture today, they care a lot about their reputation and their face. And the example that relates to our family is that one of the things that your mother and I are currently doing is we're engaging in a new venture, a new business venture that deals with real estate. Okay. And traditionally, at least in my own mindset, even though I know that there's a lot of money that can be made in real estate, I kind of never really wanted to say that is my career. Uh, I grew up, my career and my job is doing real estate, because the traditional thinking is that in order to do real estate, it doesn't really require much of a quote unquote education. It doesn't require that you're a lawyer. It doesn't require that you're a doctor. It doesn't require that you have a PhD. It doesn't require that you have a master's degree. So that is the perception. Okay. And one of the things that was interesting is I was having a talk with your mother, and she was talking about her family, which is all still living in mainland China. And they grew up in a very, very traditional kind of face, reputation, status. That is really the most important thing. And it's important to the extent that whether you allow your children to get married to someone else depends on how their family, quote unquote, accumulated their wealth. Are they wealthy enough? And even if they're wealthy enough, it matters how they made their money, right? If they made their money through, something that feels a little bit lower status, then Chinese people will still think that you're quote unquote beneath us. And even though I try to treat everybody as equal, whether they're rich or they're poor, it doesn't matter what race, color, religion they are. There's always some internal kind of subconscious biases, and I'm aware of those. So um, probably for the past my life up until this point, I kind of stayed away from trying to make money in quote unquote real estate, because I thought that it would be a higher kind of status for me if I were able to make money as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, as a trainer, as an instructor, as an educator, rather than trying to make money in real estate. So that's kind of a transition that we're going through right now. And I was talking to your mom, and your mom is highly educated. Your mom has a PhD in kind of medical related fields. I think it's microbiology and physiology. She works at pharmaceutical companies, and now she's working in the medical device industry. And we were talking about that, she said that she wants to stay connected in the medical field, because even when we become financially free, where we don't technically have to work for money anymore, she still desires the status of being working, having a career in the medical industry. And it's also something that she's done for her entire life. So she has also interest and passion in making that part of her life and part of her career. And this just goes all the way back to um, the Chinese need for face, status, and reputation. And it just transcends everything that Chinese people do and how they make decisions. So I think as you're growing up, we're going to try to raise you on a different set of values where you just have to be responsible for yourself and the people around you. And this whole face and status thing shouldn't drive the decisions that are going to affect your life. Again, thinking that, am I talking to you as a very young child or somebody who's much older? It'll be interesting in 20 years, when you're looking back in hindsight, how did we raise you? What values do you have because of the way that you were raised? And I reflect back on what values I have because the environment and the way that my parents raised me. What are the differences in values? And how is that generational? How is that cultural? How is that environmental? And you can kind of see what your parents were thinking even before you were born, of what type of values we wanted to kind of instill in you. So, yep, I don't know how long this went because I didn't record this with my phone. I'm using my webcam in front of my computer in my office or my home office. But again, the message is the same. I want to try to talk to you every single day until you are born to give you a record of all of this, which I think will be very interesting when you're looking back and you're old enough to understand this. All right. Love you, little buddy. Still don't have a name, but very soon.
Listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or YouTube.